Distinguished guests, please welcome Newhouse School Dean Mark Lodato.
Good evening, everyone. We are excited to welcome you to the 2024 Mirror Awards ceremony. I am Mark Lodato, Dean of the SI Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University. Tonight, we will be recognizing the talented reporters, writers, and editors who hold a mirror to their own industry for the public's benefit. Thank you for being here to honor their outstanding work. Your presence tonight also helps the Newhouse School support the future of journalism. Net proceeds from the Mirror Awards fund Newhouse scholarships, which provide our increasingly diverse student population access to a quality education. As you start to enjoy your dinners, which is just fine, I would like to take a few moments and recognize some of the guests in the audience with us tonight. First, thank you to our sponsors for supporting the Mirror Awards program, and a special thank you to our lead sponsors, Charter Communications, the Samuel I. Newhouse Foundation, and Advanced Media. I also want to acknowledge the members of the Newhouse family and express my gratitude to Donald Newhouse. For 6 decades now, their steadfast support has provided the bedrock that has allowed Syracuse University to provide a top-of-class education for generations of communication students. For that, we are forever grateful. The Mirror Awards honor those roots in journalism established through the Newhouse family. We're all aware of the pressures facing the industry today, and that's why it's critically important to recognize the media members who set examples for why journalism matters. The collective work of the winners and finalists of our juried prize categories remind us how quality, original writing, and reporting can make a difference. Tonight, we're also recognizing the honorees of our 2 non-juried awards. First, MLK 50, Justice Through Journalism, is the recipient of the Lorraine Branham Idea Award for their exemplary work to promote inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. We're happy to have Wendy C. Thomas with us tonight to accept the award for MLK 50. And this year's recipient of the Fred Dressler Leadership Award is Byron Allen, the founder, CEO, and chairman of Allen Media Group. Byron, thank you for all you've done to champion minority-owned journalism and media. We're also fortunate to have with us tonight CNN's Erica Hill, who will serve as our Master of Ceremonies. Erica, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to help us recognize our winners tonight. Next, a thank you to the many alumni, faculty, and friends of the school who served as judges and organizers for the awards competition. And also joining us tonight is Syracuse University Vice Chancellor and Provost Gretchen Ritter, as well as members of the Newhouse Advisory Board. Thanks to all of you for your support. And finally, I want to recognize the Syracuse University students and recent graduates here tonight. For the rest of our guests, if our students haven't introduced themselves yet, I know they would welcome an opportunity to meet you, absorb any words of wisdom, and share some of the great things we're doing at the Newhouse School. So now, though, please continue to enjoy your dinner, and our awards program will begin during your next course. Thank you, everyone.
Special guests, please welcome your Mirror Award host, CNN's Erica Hill.
Hi. It is such a treat to be here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at the 2024 Mirror Awards. This, of course, is an evening to celebrate the work of journalists and how important that work is to our democracy and to society. Established by the Newhouse School in 2006, the Mirror Awards honor the reporters, editors, and writers who hold a mirror to their own industry for the public's benefit. The competition is open to anyone who conducts reporting, commentary, or criticism of the media industries in work produced for print, broadcast, or online distribution. And tonight is the culmination of a comprehensive judging process. Over the past 2 months, a double tier of 71 judges whittled over 195 entries down to just 22 finalists in 6 categories. These entries provide a snapshot of the major media moments of the past year, reminding us what was important, what has changed, and what's at stake. Special categories this year recognize stories about media coverage of artificial intelligence in journalism and the media, and stories about the coverage of the Israel-Hamas conflict. To all of our finalists tonight, your work is invaluable. I know firsthand how much time and energy it takes to produce quality journalism, to provide a human perspective to original writing, reporting, and commentary that can help readers and viewers better understand the media industry and the coverage of important issues that affect us all. So thank you to all of our finalists. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your dedication. And now let's recognize this year's winners. And just a note too, we know your time is precious. We know how important it is to keep the program moving. So please do continue to enjoy your dinner as the awards, as we begin the awards. So first up is the Mirror Award for Best Single Article or Story. So first up, the finalists: Lauren Tyson, Autostraddle is spiraling toward a shutdown or a sale for Defector. John Marcus, why retired journalists are jumping back into the profession for Neiman Reports. Laura Wagner, a crackdown on woke coverage is tearing Atlanta magazine apart for the Washington Post. And Paige Williams, a small town paper lands a very big story for the New Yorker. And the Mirror Award goes to a small town paper lands a very big story. Paige Williams for the New Yorker. And here tonight to accept the award on Paige's behalf is story editor Micah Hauser. Judges said the following about Williams' work: this is a hard-to-put-down narrative fueled by compelling characters, deep reporting, and engaging scenes. A mighty tale of the power of journalism sold through the lens of a small southern town's newspaper. So many great details that just stick with a reader.
Thank you guys so much. I'm clearly not Paige, so I'll keep this short, but she so deeply appreciates this award, I know, and it's an honor for me to accept it on her behalf. Thank you so much.
Our next award is for Best Profile, recognizing a carefully researched and sourced piece about an individual or organization noteworthy in the media industry. The finalists tonight: Elena Platt-Calabro, A Star Reporter's Break with Reality for The Atlantic. Tim Alberta, Inside the Meltdown at CNN for The Atlantic. Emily Stone, The Catch for Long Lead. Maddie Crowell, The Hacker for the Columbia Journalism Review. And the Mirror Award goes to The Catch by Emily Stone for Long Lead. The judges noted, we love every aspect of this story: the subject, the reporting, the writing, the structure, the photos, and the pull quotes. Tremendous all around.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Longlead founding editor and Newhouse alum John Patrick Pullen, who's here tonight, and who believed in this story from beginning to end. To story editor Glenn Stout, who spent hours on the phone with me talking about tiny details, major themes, and everything in between. To the fantastic entire team at Longlead, including Emily Barone, Heather Muse, and Sarah Rogers, photographer Kathleen Flynn, fact checker Sonia Weiser, the design team at Glad Eye, who took my words and turned them into an immersive and beautiful experience. Special thanks to David Woolman at the Story Bureau, who brought me this idea in the first place, and to the Newhouse School for this honor. Above all, I want to thank Virginia Kraft, who was fresh out of Barnard in 1951 when she walked into the Manhattan office of Field and Stream magazine and talked her way into a job. Then spent nearly 2 years writing under a male pseudonym before getting her shot at Sports Illustrated, where she became the first and for a long time the only woman to write adventurous, long-form narrative feature stories, much like the one that I was able to write about her 70 years later. Ruthless and classy, she opened doors for many of us in this room, and I'm so glad I got to tell her complicated story. Thank you.
Up next is the Best Commentary category, where we honor the writers who demonstrate analytic skills, a unique voice, and deep knowledge of the issues. The finalists: Michael Lowinger, On the Media series, on the collapse of digital media for On the Media; James Rainey, capturing the media industry's remorseless change for the Los Angeles Times; Melanie McFarland, A Dude and a Desk, Why Women Really Don't Get to Host Late Night TV for Salon; Lydia Polgreen, It's Not a Good Sign When People Who Don't Pay for News Have So Little to Choose From for the New York Times. And the Mirror Award goes to It's Not a Good Sign When People Who Don't Pay for News Have So Little to Choose From, Lydia Polgreen for the New York Times. The judges here stated this is the perfect commentary. The author recaps the layoff trends in the industry, yet speaks eloquently about concerns of democracy and the fracturing of a nation between those who cannot pay or choose not to, as well as the underserved and what that means for our broken information ecosystem.
Not sure what to do with this. It's so big. That's what she said. So thank you so much for this honor. I'm with journalists, so I sort of feel like that's okay. Don't cancel me, please. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this honor. Since I wrote this column that is being honored tonight, the butcher's bill in journalism has only continued to grow, and the crises at two of the legacy papers that I have read my entire life, that were supposedly rescued by civic-minded billionaires, the LA Times and the Washington Post, have only continued to descend into crisis, and this has deepened my sense of alarm. Journalists writing about journalism can sometimes seem a little navel-gazing, but I actually think that these awards, and this award that I'm just so proud to receive tonight, reminds us that holding our profession to account and asking hard questions about how and why we do our work, and asking hard questions about what we're actually up to and our role in preserving democracy, it's incredibly important. So I say to all of the media reporters in the room tonight, like, you guys, keep doing what you're doing. This is so, so, so important, and I promise that I'm also gonna try to continue to do my part. So thank you, and let's save journalism.
You have my vote for saving journalism. In addition to the traditional award categories, this year's Mirror Awards competition included 2 special categories. These were created in response to the intense attention to and coverage of these topics. So the first is the story on media coverage of artificial intelligence in journalism and the media. And the finalists here, Sheriff Frankel, Stuart A. Thompson, Katie Robertson, and Adam Satterino and Paul Moser for Why AI Worries the Media, the New York Times. Maggie Harrison Dupre, Sports Illustrated published articles by fake AI-generated writers of futurism. Peter Kafka, you're going to see more AI-written articles, whether you like it or not, for Vox. And the Mirror Award here goes to Sports Illustrated, published by fake AI-generated writers by Maggie Harrison Dupre of futurism. The judges said of Maggie's work here, this was a really excellent article and had a tremendous impact. This is a very strong piece with a powerful and clever lead and kicker.
Just gonna get my notes out real quick. Hello, I can't see any of you, really. First of all, I need to say my thank yous. Thank you to the truly incredible team at Futurism. It's my first writing job, and they plucked me from oblivion. We're a very small team, as my editor-in-chief, Foster Kramer, will say, earn your scale. Speaking of my editors, Foster and our executive editor, John Christian, they have been with me every step of the way through this and continued reporting, and I am eternally grateful for them. They rock. They're great. My husband Mason is also here, and he is always listening to me just on a soapbox throughout all of this as well. So thank you to him. And, I think if I have, speaking of soapboxes, technology and media have always been, very deeply tethered together. They warp and they shift and they transform one another. And I think that many will argue that the current changes, speaking of saving journalism, the current changes that we are witnessing and experiencing in the modern media world have been in large part of and by technology and the way that journalism and media have interacted with technology. This in mind, I believe that is as essential, if not more so than ever, to rigorously follow the ways that new technologies like AI are interacting and changing that environment as well. So how information is consumed matters, as is how it's created. And yeah, thank you very much. I'm very grateful.
The second special category this year is the best story on media coverage of the Israel-Hamas conflict. And the finalists are Charlotte Klein, You Don't Want to Hedge It? Inside the New York Times debate over its Gaza hospital bombing coverage for Vanity Fair. Michael M. Grinbaum, Katie Robertson, Jeremy W. Peters, and Stephen Lee Myers, Mideast Truth and Fiction for the New York Times. And Brooke Gladstone, The Fog of War shrouds a devastating conflict for On the Media, WNYC. And the Mirror Award goes to the loudest group. No. The Fog of War shrouds a devastating conflict by Brooke Gladstone for On the Media, WNYC. The judges here said this is a masterfully researched, written, and edited report. Great interviews, great narrative storytelling. The story was meticulously researched and exposed so many problems the media faces covering this war, as well as the problems with the accuracy of the reporting.
I think a lot of us know what a minefield it felt like right after the Gaza war began. I was so lucky to have a fantastic team doing all of that reporting and finding of tape and all the things that made that report really, really good. We were proud of it. We managed to walk through the minefield without pulling punches and yet ensuring that all perspectives were included. I'm very grateful for this award, and I'm especially grateful to somebody tonight who was referred to as we were Thelma and Louise, and that's Katya Rogers, who I've known for at least 25 years. Also, Micah Lowinger, and the great producers, Molly Rosen and Eloise Blondio. I am so old, I am having problems. I would have the same problem with my children because I feel like they are my children. I am so grateful to this. Thank you for the recognition. Thank you for noticing On the Media's work over the entire third Millennium Mirror Awards. We really appreciate it.
And now for our final juried category, the John M. Higgins Award for Best In-Depth or Enterprise Reporting. As a cable industry beat reporter and then as an editor at Broadcasting and Cable, John Higgins exemplified fairness and excellence in media reporting. With this award, we honor a reporter or team of writers who tackled big issues with keen analysis and excellent reporting. The finalists for the 2024 Higgins Award are Ronan Farrow, Elon Musk's shadow rule for The New Yorker, David Folkenflik, a reporter's ouster exposes political pressure on West Virginia Public Broadcasting for NPR News, Sarah Ellison, Amy Gardner, Dan Rosenzweig-Ziff, Shelley Tan, Derek Hawkins, and Blair Guild at center of Fox News lawsuit, Sidney Powell, and a wackadoodle email for The Washington Post. Jeremy W. Peters, Jim Rutenberg, Katie Robertson, and Michael S. Schmidt, Fox's costly miscalculation for the New York Times. And the Mirror Award goes to Fox's costly miscalculation. Jeremy W. Peters, Jim Rutenberg, Katie Robertson, and Michael S. Schmidt, the New York Times. The judges here noted that this was excellent investigative reporting and narrative storytelling. They felt like they were in the courthouse when this settlement agreement was hashed out.
Well, thank you. This story was always a bit of a journalistic white whale. Defamation cases against a major media company like Fox News are rarely successful, but this was a case that stood out from the beginning. And it's a credit to my editors at the New York Times for letting us spend a lot of time on it early on in the lawsuit process when a lot of other media weren't paying attention to it. So thank you to our indefatigable editor, Joe Plambeck, and Alan Pollack, the head of the business desk. My colleagues, Katie, Jim, and Mike, who couldn't be here tonight, really we not only really got along well as colleagues, but also as friends. So thank you guys for that. And I would say that this story's importance to me was always much more than about the salacious and provocative headlines, of which there were plenty. But it always seemed to me to be a real test of American democracy and whether or not one of the largest news organizations in the country was going to get away with flat out lying to its audience about the outcome of a presidential election. At the end, they had to pay $787 million for that mistake, so I think we can safely say they did not get away scot-free. Thank you, and thank you to the Newhouse School. Oh, and free Evan.
Congratulations again to all of the Mirror Award winners. I think we can do an extra round of applause. It's now time for the Lorraine Branham Idea Award, and this honors a media organization's exemplary work in promoting inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. In particular, this award recognizes efforts to hire and to develop leadership talent who create change, both to the organizations they oversee and the content they produce. This award is named for the late Dean Emerita, Lorraine Branham, who was the first Black woman to serve as Dean of the Newhouse School. The recipient of this year's Lorraine Branham Idea Award is MLK 50, Justice Through Journalism. Based in Memphis, Tennessee, MLK 50 is a nonprofit digital newsroom focused on the intersection of poverty, power, and policy. Founded in 2017, MLK 50 launched the year before the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It has now evolved into a thriving, award-winning platform that is making an impact in its community. MLK 50's mission is outlined in their eloquent vision statement: to echo the Reverend Martin Luther King's dream, a nation where all residents, especially workers, have enough resources to thrive, and where public and private policy supports their success. Here to offer remarks and to present the award to MLK 50 is Anne Marie Lipinski.
The first time I met Wendy Thomas, she was an applicant for the Neiman Journalism Fellowship at Harvard University. After a career in legacy newsrooms, she had left daily journalism to incubate a new idea, a site to mark the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination, not with sentiment, but by interrogating Memphis, her hometown, on what King's fight had amounted to. "I think we're ashamed," she wrote, "of how little we've done with his sacrifice." Here's a note I wrote in the margin of Wendy's application. "I want to focus on economic justice," she told us, "rather than kumbaya." Wendy's was an easy application to back, and the power of assessing history with accountability journalism was reinforced when she met the sociologist Matthew Desmond during one of her Harvard courses, and he posed a question that would transform her work. He asked, "What if poverty isn't an accident, but is a robbery?" That question inspired Wendy and propelled what began as a one-year project and turned into MLK 50, Justice Through Journalism, one of the most exciting local news enterprises in the country, reporting with rigor on health, environment, policing, education, housing, and more in one of our poorest urban centers. Her investigation with ProPublica into the debt collection practices of Memphis's largest hospital system is a model of accountability investigative work, journalism that reversed the hospital's Dickensian policies. Wendy has done this while building out a muscular operation of colleagues who share her vision for what urgent local reporting can accomplish. I've marveled to witness her startup transition from living off of her overextended credit cards and the kindness of family and friends to a sustaining newsroom, one successful enough that Wendy will soon live the founder's dream and allow herself to return to full-time reporting while passing the management reins to colleagues. Wendy has also become a generous and patient resource to journalists around the country working on their own local startups, and MLK 50 a beacon for a new generation of newsrooms. There is a Thomas family story about Wendy, at age 11, sending a letter of complaint to their Memphis pastor when he failed to mention Dr. King in a sermon on the 15th anniversary of the civil rights leader's assassination. The family minister, a white man, cried when he next saw Wendy, saying he never meant to offend her. Wendy remembers feeling that the letter had its intended effect, to make someone see the world through someone else's eyes. Since then, she wrote, I've managed to make a career of directing attention to those often overlooked, be they ex-offenders, the LGBT community, the homeless, or the poor. I'm not a member of any of those groups, but as a Black woman, I know what it is like to operate in spaces that were not designed for you. This is a mission that exemplifies the very essence of the Lorraine Branham Idea Award, and I am so, so proud of my friend for breathing life into MLK 50, this year's Idea Award-winning organization. Let us now show you a glimpse of what MLK 50 does.
Martin Luther King Jr. died more than 50 years ago, but his legacy endures through an organization that's fighting for justice through journalism.
Morning, morning. Hey, have you heard about the upcoming district attorney election?
The Criminal Justice Center.
We spent some time down here asking people what they would want to see in a district attorney.
It's not an enjoyable place for a lot of people.
For you to learn a little bit about what your power is in affecting that election.
Showing up for court, relying on a system.
Just trying to get the word out to the people.
But this is a different kind of day in this building.
There's a district attorney election coming up, and we wanted to talk to some people who are currently facing prosecution and ask them what they would want to see.
Journalists Carrington Tatum and Andrea Morales are passing out a recent story they published, putting it directly into the hands of people most affected by what happens in the district attorney's office. They work for MLK 50, Justice Through Journalism.
We're trying to figure out how to be a different kind of newsroom, and so that involves working with the community and working for the community.
It's untraditional work like this that helps get new eyes on their journalism, which is primarily digital.
What we're doing is planting seeds.
Wendy C. Thomas is the founding publisher.
And initially, we planned it to be like a one-year project, just leading up to the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination.
But she says their commitment to covering the community in the spirit of Dr. King, in the city where he died fighting for civil rights, has helped them grow stronger. They're now marking 5 years covering issues in Memphis.
What our journalism does, I think, connects today to his radical past, and making those same kind of calls for true justice and true liberation for people who are marginalized in any way.
Part of this mission is to call out systems and hold them accountable.
He was a great speaker, but he didn't sugarcoat. Dr. King was telling you exactly who it is.
That's right. Capitalism, racism, militarism. He called those systems out.
Said those words.
It's all part of following the legacy Dr. King laid out.
King was radical. He called for a complete revolution of values.
And for MLK 50, that means doing journalism a little differently.
Finding ways to reach people who have felt disenfranchised through journalism, because journalism also has caused great harm in the city of Memphis.
While we practice all the traditional tenets of journalism around fairness and accuracy, there are some things that we believe are just non-negotiable truths, right? So workers deserve enough to be able to live on. Healthcare is a human right. Any group that's been marginalized, we are reporting with them at the core of what we do.
One example of this reporting is an investigation into debt collection practices by the city's largest hospital system that was suing its own low-wage workers for unpaid medical debt.
And the hospital announced a series of reforms. So they raised the pay of their lowest paid workers to $15 an hour. They erased nearly $12 million in debt for more than 5,300 defendants. And now there are thousands of people who will never be sued because of that reporting that my team and I did.
In order for this journalism to survive, they are primarily supported by national foundations, receiving six-figure multi-year grants to be able to sustain the work. In Wendy's words, it allows them to continue to plant seeds that can grow into justice.
It's my great honor to introduce Wendy Thomas, founding editor and publisher of MLK 50, and her executive editor, Adrian Johnson Martin, to accept this award.
See if I can see myself over the mic. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for that lovely introduction and for choosing me as a Neiman Fellow. Being a Neiman changed my life, and in turn, MLK 50 is changing the lives of Memphians. I've said this to you before, but I owe you a debt that I could never repay. Okay. I'm delighted to have with me tonight two Newhouse alums. One of them is sitting right here in the front, Deborah Adams Simmons, class of 1986. We were Neiman Fellows together, and your guidance and help and support on this journey has been invaluable. Thank you for being a cheerleader. Next to me, is Adrian Johnson Martin, class of 1985. She's been MLK's 50's thoughtful and most talented executive editor for the last 4 years, and she will be ascending to lead the organization. We don't have her cape yet for her ascension, but will be ascending to run the organization. Thank you so much for your leadership that's going to allow me to return to reporting. The biggest of thank yous goes to the Newhouse School and Dean Lodato. We're thrilled to receive the IDEA Award named for Lorraine Branham, an award that celebrates such values as diversity, which is important to us as well. As you saw in the video, we are fueled by the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "There is no deficit in human resources, the deficit is in human will." We remain committed to the people that Dr. King would be aligned with were he still alive. Our work is essential in a majority black city like Memphis, a blue corner in a very red state, where often the more progressive policies that would improve residents' lives get no traction in the conservative state legislature. Take housing, for example. Tennessee's laws are unusually landlord-friendly, and legislative attempts to protect renters typically fail. And this is where MLK 50 comes in. We try to fill the gap between better public policy and what vulnerable residents need now. So I'll just tell one quick story. While covering eviction proceedings, our housing reporter, Jacob Steimer, was alarmed by how utterly unprepared for court so many people facing eviction were. Housing instability and poverty are inextricably linked, yet there was no guide to help these renters advocate for themselves. So Jacob created that guide and went to court and put those guides in the hands of people coming to court for their eviction hearings. When Jacob told me that he witnessed people using the exact language from that guide in court to ask the judge for a continuance or negotiate with their landlords, I thought, this is exactly why MLK 50 exists. Crusading investigative journalist Ida B. Wells said, "The people must know before they can act, and there is no educator to compare to the press." And I want to believe that Ida B. Wells would be proud of what we're doing at MLK 50. Now, as proud as I am of our journalism, I'm equally as proud of our commitment to build a healthy, supportive newsroom, one where the staff is encouraged to bring their authentic selves to work. Adrian deserves a medal for how well she cares for the staff as people, just not as employees. Now, to be sure, we're not perfect, but at MLK 50, work-life balance is a priority, as is our mental health. Working nights or weekends is rare, and our benefits and time-off policies are generous. Even the speed with which we pay freelancers stems from our commitment to practice economic justice in our organization. We're proud that the entire executive leadership team are women of color and that our staff mirrors the racial diversity of the community that we serve. I'm excited about what we've accomplished and all the good trouble that is ahead. Thank you again to the Newhouse School.
Congratulations again to MLK 50, and Wendy and your staff, thank you for the vital work that you do. We want to close our award program tonight with a presentation of the Fred Dressler Leadership Award. This award is named for the late Time Warner Cable executive and Newhouse alum Fred Dressler. It's given by the Newhouse School to recognize an individual who has made distinct, consistent, and unique contributions to the public's understanding of the media. Past honorees include luminaries such as PBS senior correspondent Judy Woodruff, acclaimed documentary filmmaker and executive Sheila Nevins, and Dean Baquet of the New York Times. This year, the Fred Dressler Leadership Award goes to Byron Allen, founder, CEO, and chairman of Allen Media Group. And here to present that award is Tom O'Brien.
Well, good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to start out by congratulating all the award winners and finalists tonight. It is really awe-inspiring to see your work. I've read a couple of the pieces, and congratulations, and keep doing what you're doing. It's an immense honor to be here tonight celebrating remarkable individuals who embody the spirit of leadership and public enlightenment in the media. When I was in high school and wanted to get into television, there was only one school I wanted to go to, Syracuse University's Newhouse School, because it was the best. All right. Now, as a proud Newhouse alum, I'm happy to see the tradition and celebration of excellence continue decades after I left the Hill. Thank you, Provost Ritter, and thank you, Dean Lodato, for bringing us together tonight to celebrate great work in our industry. Tonight, I'm excited to recognize Byron Allen, the 2024 recipient of the Fred Dressler Leadership Award. I've known Byron for over 3 decades, having witnessed his journey from a new entrepreneur with a vision to build the world's biggest media company to someone who's now a lot closer to his goal and an influential leader in today's media industry. And I'm proud to be part of his executive team and join him in his journey. While I personally didn't know Fred Dressler, his reputation for the transformative impact he made in the cable industry is legendary. And there are a lot of parallels to tonight's award recipient. Byron Allen is a name synonymous with groundbreaking achievements and transformative impact in the media and the entertainment business. His journey from a young comedian to the founder, chairman, and CEO of Allen Media, his passion for our business and his visionary leadership is just amazing. Byron's story in our business begins at an early age. Moving from Detroit to Los Angeles with his mother, he discovered his passion for entertainment as a young boy. His mother, Carolyn, worked her way up to be a successful publicist at NBC, where she was able to give him a unique glimpse into the world of entertainment. Spending a lot of time on NBC's Burbank lot as a child and watching icons in our industry make great TV shows, he quickly fell in love with the business and knew what he wanted to do for his career. Now, I want the audience to think about what they were doing when they were 14 years old. Just think back, 14. For some of us, it's longer than others. I was a paper boy delivering the morning newspaper. How about you, all right? Well, Byron, a young go-getter at 14, worked his way into a job in the writer's room for Jimmy Walker, who was the hottest comedian in the business at that time, writing comedy for $25 a joke, working with a couple of young comedians trying to break into the business. You may have heard of them, Jay Leno and David Letterman. A pretty good alumni group, don't you agree? Now, how about 18? Let's think about what you were doing at 18. Spring of high school, what was everyone doing, right? Everyone getting ready for college. Well, Byron, at 18 years old, 2 weeks before he graduated high school, made his national television debut on The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson, making history as the youngest comedian to perform on this iconic show. This early success was a glimpse of the extraordinary path he would forge in the years to come. Shortly after his historic Tonight Show appearance, Byron was offered a lead role in television's first reality show, Real People, which aired for 5 seasons on NBC on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. As Byron transitioned from performing to producing, he identified a significant gap in the representation and ownership in the media industry. Determined to change the landscape, he founded his company in 1993 from his dining room table. He began by producing and syndicating TV shows to TV stations around the country, which is how I originally met Byron. Today, Allen Media Group is the leading provider of first-run syndicated TV shows to TV stations, and that's even including all the major studio competition. With an unyielding belief in his vision, Byron would continue to build what would become one of the largest independent media companies in the world. In 2009, when Verizon Fios made an announcement in the Wall Street Journal that they planned to program more HD channels than anyone in the business, Byron quickly responded by leveraging his entrepreneurial and producing experience, and in a record day launched 6 HD cable networks on Verizon Fios, a first in the industry. He subsequently got into the movie business, acquiring Freestyle Releasing and creating Allen Media Group Motion Pictures, which has produced and distributed successful films, including the highest grossing independent movie of 2017, 47 Meters Down. Byron's vision and passion for our industry led to the acquisition of the Weather Channel television network in 2018, a move that further solidified his influence in the industry. His acquisition of the Weather Channel was not just a great business move, but also a statement of his dedication to protecting and saving lives and raising awareness about environmental stewardship that is anchored in science and fact. As a quick follow-up to the Weather Channel purchase, Byron relaunched an AVOD platform, Local Now, with a focus on local news, weather, sports, and entertainment. Now, with over 800 fast channels and over 20,000 TV and movie titles on demand, Local Now has become a leading AVOD service focused on local communities, recently winning Digiday's Best of Streaming service against a really tough competitive field. Recognizing the importance of local broadcasting, Allen Media acquired 27 Big Four network-affiliated television stations in 21 U.S. markets over the last 4 years, adding to an Allen Media Group portfolio that includes 12 cable networks. Fighting headwinds throughout his entire career, Byron has a strong dedication to ensure that Black voices are heard and respected. His acquisition of the Griot from NBC in 2016 and his subsequent purchase of the Black News Channel assets created an expanded platforms for African-American stories and perspectives. Following his belief that the sports programs at historic HBCUs should have a bigger stage to highlight the achievement of Black college athletes, Byron acquired HBCU Go and quickly provided the capital to expand it to become the nation's leading provider of televised Black college sports. He's been a powerful advocate for equitable media representation and ownership, tirelessly working to dismantle the systemic barriers that hinder Black and minority media entrepreneurs. In 2020, Byron created the Black-Owned Media Matters movement to advocate and hold companies to a higher standard, highlighting the difference between companies advertising on media targeted to Black audiences versus advertising on and supporting media companies owned by Black entrepreneurs and executives. As we honor Byron tonight with the Fred Dressler Leadership Award, we celebrate not only his professional achievements, but also his indomitable spirit and unwavering commitment to enhancing public understanding of the media. Byron, your accomplishments have not only shaped the media industry, but have also inspired countless individuals to dream big and strive for greatness. Your legacy will continue to influence and empower generations to become. On behalf of the SI Newhouse School of Public Communications and the team at Allen Media, I extend our heartfelt congratulations to you, Byron Allen, for your outstanding contributions and exemplary leadership. Hold on, but before you go, all right? Come on, I'm the warm-up act. You embody the values and vision that Fred Dressler championed, and we are privileged to recognize you with this prestigious award. But now, all right, I thought it was the voice of God. I stole the voice of God. Now I can read this. I came from voice of God into my script. But now, before we welcome Byron to the stage, let's enjoy this video tribute.
For me, just waking up every day and doing what I love to do, that is the ultimate success. I was fortunate. I learned early on that it's not show business, it's business show. And I figured out pretty quickly, the faster you learn the business, the more you can do in show business. Being a comedian has helped me immensely in being a media owner. You have to think a lot deeper, you have to look around corners, you have to be very creative to solve a lot of challenges that will come your way. And for me, it was natural. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and as a kid, I couldn't wait to get a uniform and a lunch pail and go work at one of the factories and make cars for the world. And then one day I discovered Berry Gordy, who was making music for the world just down the street at a company called Motown. And he set the example for me to see myself differently. And hopefully I'm able to do the same for other kids out there that look like me. Education is the key, and exposure and opportunity. And that's something that I want to see happen for everyone. I'm very blessed. You know, not only is my mother beautiful, she's brilliant. And my mother ended up getting her master's degree in cinema TV production from UCLA. She was able to go and convince NBC to let her be an intern and work there for free. And I used to go to work with her because she couldn't afford childcare, and that's when I would watch these unbelievable, amazing television comedians, you know, folks like Red Fox do Sanford and Son, Bob Hope do his specials, Johnny Carson, George Burns, Richard Pryor, Flip Wilson, you name it. I thought to myself, what a wonderful way to go through life, making people laugh and producing television. I'll never forget the moment, and it's something that just changed my life forever. I've been so fortunate. Just discovering stand-up comedy, going to the Comedy Store and doing my first Monday night tryout night on a Monday, being seen by one of Jimmy Walker's comedy writers who introduced me to Jimmy and ended up writing alongside David Letterman and Jay Leno. I was the youngest comedian to do The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Carson. We have a young comedian. He's still a high school student. Make him feel welcome, would you? Byron Allen.
And they found the stuff they put in lunch meat, bologna, sodium nitrate, right? Causes amnesia. Can you imagine that? What'd you have for lunch? I don't know.
I remember doing it and thinking to myself, this is something that will always be very special to me. After doing The Tonight Show, I got, quite a few offers, and when I saw the reality show, Real People, I said, this one. I said, why this one? And at the time, there were only 3 networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, and I said, there's 66 hours of primetime television, and this is the only hour different from the other 65 hours, this genre called reality. I think this hour will stick out, and, I was right. I started Entertainment Studios, now Allen Media, from my dining room table 31 years ago with a phone and a chair. And I just called all the television stations throughout the country and sold my show to them on a barter basis, and literally went through about 50,000 no's to get 150 yeses. And then next thing you know, we kept smiling and dialing and smiling, and ended up with about 70 shows on the air and 14 different networks, buying the Weather Channel, America's most trusted news brand, and one of the most trusted brands overall, buying our first television stations. And it's just, you just keep setting new goals and climbing to new mountaintops. Media ownership is one of the great pillars of our democracy. And because of that, I think it's extremely important that media ownership is diverse, because it's very important for all of our voices to be heard. You don't have to just play the game, you can own the game. You don't have to just work there, you can own it. And I think ownership is very important, especially when you live in a place called America, because this is truly the land of opportunity.
God bless America.
For me, it's just an adventure, and it's something I love, and hopefully my work has impacted the world in a positive way, because that's always been my goal, my dream, my hope, to bring laughter and light to the world, to make the world a little bit better than the way I found it, and to use media in a way to unify us and to bring us together and to bring out the best in everyone.
right, Byron, congratulations. Come up now.
All right, thank you, Tom O'Brien. Tom O'Brien, that is the longest introduction I've ever heard in my life. Holy moly, I think I took a nap, went and did my taxes, went to FedEx, made sure I got that package in by 9 o'clock tonight. Thank you, Dean Lodato, thank you so much. A former news person, ladies and gentlemen, newscast, yes. Isn't he something? Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I want to thank Syracuse University and Newhouse School of Communication. This is a real honor. It means a lot to me. I knew Fred, and Tom, I may have met you around that time. I'm not sure, but I knew Fred, and he was terrific. It was an honor to work with him, and this means a lot. I have to tell you, you know, I'm really here because of you. You're the heroes. What you do is so special and so powerful and so needed. You are the truth tellers. You are the one that's informing our communities. And an informed community can make better decisions. You help to provide the critical thinking that's so badly needed. And without you, there would be a lot more darkness. And God knows we have more than enough darkness, and some days it just feels completely overwhelming. So I want to say to you, the journalists, keep doing what you're doing. Never stop. And if you can, give even more, because we need you more than ever before. I never thought I would see the day where it would be dangerous to be who you are. And I cannot encourage you enough. Say what you need to say and continue to do what you're doing. And I appreciate you more than you will ever know, and we need you more than you can ever imagine. So please give yourselves. Great journalists, you shouldn't be locked up in foreign prisons. Your lives should not be threatened, and you should not be physically harmed. Unfortunately, you are on the front line, and we don't acknowledge that enough, because you should not have to go through that. I'm very fortunate, as they explained. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and my mom, you know, I learned so much from her, and it was touching to see those photos. And I really want to say that this is important to me because education is everything, and I do mean everything. My mother got pregnant with me when she was 16 years old. She had me 17 days after her 17th birthday. And I got really lucky. I hit the lottery. Beautiful and brilliant. Brilliant and beautiful. I was 7 years old. I was in the middle of the street playing urban baseball, using my neighbor's cars as first base and another neighbor's car as second base. And my mother and grandmother started screaming. They killed him. They killed him. They murdered him. They killed my Martin. And I'd never seen my mother and my grandmother howl like that and have such pain in their voices and in their soul. And before I knew it, I was looking down the barrel of a tank. The military had immediately taken over my neighborhood in Detroit, Michigan. And they started coming down my street with rifles and bayonets and guns and dogs. And my mother and my grandmother started screaming, "Get in the house before they kill you." And they had assassinated Martin Luther King April 4th, 1968. And that moment changed my life forever. The city immediately went up in smoke, and I could not understand where the hatred was coming from. And I learned in that moment that I had lost my childhood, and I felt like a child of war, that America did not love us. America looked at us as the pariah of society. And it was very painful, and I knew then I wanted to learn as much as I could about Martin Luther King. And so my mother and I went to Los Angeles in the summer of '68 because Detroit was pretty much in ruins for that summer. And we went out to LA for a 2-week vacation, and my mom and dad were getting a divorce, and my mom and I decided to stay in LA. And we didn't have anything, and we slept on a lot of sofas and a lot of floors and in spare rooms and good neighbors. And she ended up getting into UCLA, and she ended up getting her master's degree in cinema TV production. And that door opening up was everything, that education door. I can't imagine where my life would be or what it would look like if that opportunity wasn't granted to this single black mother who had nothing, and I do mean nothing. Education is everything. But the power of yes is everything. The power of yes. My mother went to a lot of people. Once she got her master's degree from UCLA in cinema TV production and asked for a lot of jobs and got a lot of no's. She got so many no's, she stopped asking for the job and the opportunity. And she finally asked at NBC, one of the last places to go. And they said, "No, we really think it's great that you have that master's degree from such a fine university, but we don't have a job for you." And then she asked a question, and she said, "Do you have an intern program where I can work for you for free and show you what I can do?" And they said, "No." And then she asked the question that changed our lives forever. "Will you please start one with me?" And they said, "Yes." And that yes is the yes that opened the door. So I encourage all of you smart, brilliant people, powerful people, whenever you can, say yes. Because that yes can change lives for the better forever. And that exposure was so much to me because my mother ended up becoming a tour guide and then a publicist, and I grew up with journalists. Extended family for me because my mom was the publicist there. And I learned a lot watching that interaction and how important the process is. And I knew this is what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to entertain people, inform people. And I started at a young age, as they explained. Now, one of the encounters that changed a lot for me was that desire to learn as much as I could about Martin Luther King. So I went to his widow, Coretta Scott King, the true queen of America. And I learned so much from her because she's the one who raised over $50 million to build the Martin Luther King Center for Nonviolent Change. She's the one who made his birthday the only American to have his birthday be a national holiday. And she's the one who opened a trial to investigate who really killed her husband, which we're making a movie about. And I learned so much from her, and she taught me, and she said, you know, Byron, they didn't kill my Martin over the I have a dream speech. That's not the speech that got him murdered. She said the speech that got him murdered was the speech he gave in February of '68 at Stanford University. And that speech was called The Other America. And in that speech, he said, there are two Americas, and two Americas will not survive. One America has access to opportunity, education, and economic inclusion. And we must have that for every American. We must have one America, or America will implode. And she said they killed him 4 months later. He was speaking on behalf of poor people, mainly poor white people, and he was saying that the bottom was too low. And she said, and that was too much for the system to handle. And she told me, she said, Byron, the truth is our greatest weapon. And if we bring the truth, we will always win. And in that moment, I knew that I was going to start a media company, because media has power, enormous power. The most powerful person in the world is not the president. The most powerful person in the world is you, because you're able to communicate effectively. And I knew in that moment that I was going to use media to unite us, because media, unfortunately, can be weaponized and divide us. So when people see me go here, 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 that's what's driving me. One America. That's what we deserve. That's what I want to see. So I want to say sincerely, I appreciate you, and hopefully together we can achieve this very important goal, because we deserve it. Thank you.
Well, congratulations again to Byron Allen, MLK 50, and to all of the Mirror Award finalists and winners tonight. I give also a special thanks to our amazing Master of Ceremonies, Erica Hill from CNN. Well done. And of course, to all of our sponsors tonight as well. Additional thanks goes to Warner Brothers Discovery for providing the Magnolia cupcakes that everyone in the audience will be able to take home as you leave. So thank you, Warner Brothers. This evening marks a celebration of the kind of writing and reporting that shows why journalism matters. Work that holds accountable those in power, but that also holds accountable our own industry too, for all the benefit of the public good. That's why, in the face of seemingly constant headwinds, there will always be a place for original writing and reporting, the kind of reporting that seeks to root out injustices or question politicians or public policy, or that aims to simply tell compelling, fact-based stories. At Newhouse, we will continue the work of defending and strengthening the critical role that journalists play in our democracy. We pledge to nurture informed, inclusive, equity-minded, and engaged citizens among both those who cover and create the news. And we pledge to continue to create an environment that promotes civil discourse. Taken together, we believe we are training students who will be well-equipped for success in the workplace. Speaking of which, I can't say enough how proud I am of our talented students. Their award-winning work and collective enthusiasm for the profession provides a beacon of light for our future. They are eager to meet the challenges head-on, and the Newhouse School will provide the education, training, and hands-on experiences to help them become the next great generation of journalists. This concludes our program. Thank you for your support of the Mirror Awards, and we hope to see you again next year. Good night, everyone.